There is a moment. It happens at night, usually. The house is quiet. You're in another room, or you're half asleep, or you're just sitting there doing nothing in particular. And then it comes. A sharp, percussive thud. Then silence. Then another one. Your rabbit is thumping. You go and check. There's nothing there. No predator, no loud noise, no obvious threat. Your rabbit is sitting in the corner of their enclosure, or in the middle of the room, perfectly still now. Nose twitching, eyes wide and dark and absolutely certain about something you cannot perceive. You watch them for a moment. You decide everything is fine. You go back to what you were doing. But here is what I want you to hold on to before we go any further. Your rabbit was not wrong. Whatever they detected, and they detected something, was real. The system they used to detect it has been refined across 40 million years of evolution. It is older than the Alps, it is older than grass, and in the 30 seconds it took you to walk over and check on them, they had already transmitted that information in a way that no human technology can replicate. This video is about what that thump actually is, not what it looks like, not the common explanation you'll find on pet care websites, what it actually is biologically, neurologically, and in terms of the deep history of a small animal that's been doing this since long before humans existed. And by the end, when your rabbit does it again tonight, and they will, you will not go and check and find nothing. You will understand exactly what you're witnessing. So let's treat this properly. Let's treat the thump as a puzzle that deserves a real answer. Here is what we know on the surface. Rabbits thump with their powerful hind legs, producing a sound and a vibration that travels through whatever surface they're standing on. They do it when they're startled. They do it when they're annoyed. They do it apparently at nothing at all. Owners report their rabbits thumping at shadows, at the wind, at a change in the quality of light coming through a window, at 3 in the morning in a silent house, at absolutely nothing that any human in the room can identify. The standard explanation, the one you'll find repeated endlessly across rabbit care forums and basic husbandry guides, is that thumping is a warning signal. The rabbit is scared and telling other rabbits to be scared. That's it. That's the whole explanation. Warning signal. And that explanation is not wrong exactly. It's just so incomplete that it might as well be. Because when you look at the actual science, the biomechanics, the neurology, the seismic ecology, the 40 million year fossil record of the rabbit's ancestors, what you find is something so much stranger and more sophisticated that the warning signal explanation starts to feel like describing a symphony as some noise. There are 3 things we need to examine. The first is about attachment and communication. The second is about biology and perception. The third is about evolutionary history, so deep it will make your rabbits perfectly ordinary. Thursday evening thump feel like something ancient, speaking through a small furry body. Let's start with what this behaviour is actually communicating, and to whom. The warning signal hypothesis. Let's take it seriously for a moment, because it deserves to be properly examined before it's set aside. The basic logic is this. A prey animal in the wild detects a threat, and instead of vocalizing, which would reveal its location to the predator, it thumps the ground. The vibration travels to other rabbits nearby. They receive it, interpret it as danger, and respond accordingly, either by freezing or by retreating to a burrow. It's a low-risk alarm system, smart, quiet, elegant, and in the wild, in the field, watching European wild rabbits, this does happen. Researchers including Mikitowicz and Dudzinski, publishing in CSIRO Wildlife Research in 1972, documented ground thumping behaviours in wild rabbit populations and confirmed that the signal produced a measurable response in nearby individuals. But here is the first problem with applying this to your rabbit. Thumping alone in your living room at 2 in the morning. Warning signals require a recipient. They're communicative acts. If thumping is purely a warning signal, it should diminish or disappear in solitary rabbits, with no other rabbit nearby to warn. But it doesn't. Solitary pet rabbits, rabbits who have never lived with another rabbit, who have had no contact with another rabbit in years, thump at exactly the same rate as socially housed rabbits. They thump when no other rabbit is present to receive the warning. They thump when the only other beings in the room are humans. This was examined directly by researchers studying rabbit communication in domestic settings, and the finding is consistent. The behaviour persists regardless of audience, which means either rabbits are extraordinarily bad at understanding that their warnings are being wasted on an empty room, and rabbits are not, as we're about to establish, cognitively unsophisticated, or thumping is doing something else as well. Something the warning signal hypothesis doesn't capture. And that something else is where this gets genuinely interesting. Here is something that surprises most rabbit owners when they first encounter it. Rabbits form specific, individual social bonds, not generalized comfort with the presence of other beings. Specific, directional, individual attachments to particular rabbits, to particular humans, that produce measurable, behavioral and physiological changes when those bonds are disrupted. This was demonstrated compellingly by research from the University of Vienna, where Baumgartner and Koteschall studied rabbit social bonding, and found that domesticated rabbits show clear preferential orientation towards specific familiar individuals, both human and rabbit, and display stress indicators when separated from those individuals that are distinct from generalized environmental stress. The bonds are real, they are neurologically encoded, they are not interchangeable. What this means for thumping is this: when your rabbit thumps and then looks at you, and many owners report exactly this, the thump followed by a deliberate glance toward the human in the room. They may not simply be broadcasting a warning into the void. They may be doing something that looks, functionally, very much like communication directed at a bonded individual. They are alerting you specifically. They are telling you, their bonded companion, that something is wrong. Now this is where the attachment science gets layered with something even more striking. Research by Mikel Delgado and colleagues at the School of Veterinary at UC Davis, published in Applied Animal Behaviour Science in 2017, examined the social referencing behaviour of domestic rabbits, the tendency of a prey animal to look toward a bonded human for information about whether a stimulus is threatening. They found that rabbits in novel or ambiguous situations would orient toward familiar humans and modulate their fear response based on the human's own reaction. If the human appeared calm, the rabbit's stress indicators reduced. If the human appeared alarmed, they elevated. This is not a simple warning signal. This is a two-way communication loop between a rabbit and a human, mediated by attachment, rooted in trust. Your rabbit thumps. You come and check. You appear calm. They relax. The system works. The bond is the mechanism, but this still doesn't explain the thumping at nothing. The thumping at something no human can detect. For that, we need to go deeper. Your rabbit is not thumping at nothing. Let me be extremely clear about this because it is the most important perceptual fact in this entire video. When your rabbit thumps at something you cannot perceive, the limitation is yours, not theirs. Here is what your rabbit can detect that you cannot. Rabbits are seismic perceivers. Their skeletal structure, specifically the way their hind limbs connect through dense musculature to a highly sensitive vestibular system, allows them to detect ground vibrations at frequencies far below the threshold of human perception. Research by O'Brien and colleagues at the Department of Zoology at the University of Aberdeen, published in the Journal of Experimental Biology, examined vibration sensitivity in lagomorphs and found detection thresholds at frequencies between 1 and 100 Hz, a range that encompasses the footsteps of a large animal several hundred meters away, low-frequency vehicle movement, underground water movement, and the early precursor vibrations of seismic activity. Your rabbit is not hearing a threat, they are feeling it, through their feet, through the bones of their legs, through a sensory system so attuned to ground vibration that it can detect a fox moving through undergrowth. At a distance your eyes couldn't resolve, even in perfect daylight. And here is the specific finding that rewrites everything. When a rabbit thumps, it is not only sending a signal, it is actively creating a vibration and then listening to the echo. Research by Randall, published in the American Zoologist in 2001, on seismic communication in burrowing mammals, demonstrated that thumps produce substrate-borne vibrations that travel through soil and solid flooring at measurably different speeds and amplitudes depending on what is in the environment. A thump on empty ground sounds different, seismically, from a thump near a burrow entrance. A thump in a space where a predator is present produces a different vibrational return than one in a clear space. Your rabbit is echolocating through the ground with their feet. That thump in your quiet living room is not a mistake. It is a probe. Your rabbit detected something. A vibration from the street outside, a low-frequency hum from your heating system, a seismic signature that their 40-million-year-old nervous system flagged as anomalous, and they thumped to get more information about it. The thump is both the alarm and the instrument. The technology your rabbit is running in their hind legs right now, tonight, is older than almost anything else in your home. Older than your house, older than your species, and it has never once needed an update. Now we can go back far enough to see where all of this comes from. 40 million years ago, in the Eocene epoch, the ancestors of modern rabbits were small, quick, largely solitary animals living in open grassland environments with no burrows and no cover. The fossil record of early lagomorphs, examined extensively by Dawson at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History and published in a landmark synthesis in GeoBios in 2008, shows skeletal adaptations in the hind limb that predate the social, burrowing lifestyle of modern rabbits by millions of years. The seismic sensitivity was there before the burrows were, before the warrens, before the complex social structures. What this tells us is that vibrational perception was not a social adaptation. It was a survival adaptation that later became social. The thumping began as a private act, one animal detecting vibration through its feet and responding by amplifying that vibration to probe the environment further. Communication came second. The nervous system came first. But here is the piece of this history that I want you to hold in your mind for a moment, because it is not just a fact, it is a story. In 2011, researchers excavating a site in the Iberian Peninsula uncovered something unexpected in a deposit dating to approximately 28,000 years ago. Among the remains of small mammals processed by early human hunters, there were rabbit bones, dozens of them, showing very specific cut marks. Not the random marks of opportunistic hunting. Systematic, deliberate marks suggesting rabbits were being processed in large numbers, in a specific way, at a specific site, over an extended period of time. The researchers, led by Farr and colleagues, and published in the Journal of Human Evolution, proposed that this represented one of the earliest known examples of small game specialization in human hunting, and that rabbits, specifically, were central to the survival of human populations in southern Europe during the Upper Paleolithic. Humans and rabbits have been in each other's presence for at least 28,000 years. For the vast majority of that time, humans were predators and rabbits were prey. And yet here we are, your rabbit in your living room, thumping to warn you, running a nervous system older than human language, in a body smaller than your forearm, making a sound that travels through your floorboards and your bones and activates something in you, a sudden alertness, a pull toward them that you have also never needed to explain. The prey animal is warning the predator, and the predator is coming to check. That, in its own way, is one of the most extraordinary reversals in the history of the human-animal relationship. I want to talk to you carefully now, because this section matters more than everything before it. Thumping is a behaviour your rabbit uses to communicate. It is active, purposeful, and initiated by an animal with real emotional states, real stress responses, and a nervous system that can be pushed past its limits. When the thumping changes in frequency, in context, in what follows it, that change is information, and you should take it seriously. Here is what normal thumping looks like. Occasional, contextual, usually followed by a return to relaxed behaviour. Grooming, eating, flopping. Your rabbit thumps, transmits, listens, and moves on. The stress response activates and resolves. Here is what chronic stress thumping looks like. And this is what you need to know. If your rabbit is thumping frequently throughout the day and night in a space that has not changed, with no new environmental stimuli, the most important question is not what they are detecting. It is whether their nervous system has become unable to return to baseline. Research by Meyer and colleagues at Utrecht University, published in the journal Physiology and Behaviour in 2004, found that rabbits subjected to chronic low-level stress stimuli showed a significant dysregulation of the HPA axis, the hormonal stress response system that closely parallels the physiological pattern seen in chronic anxiety disorders in mammals broadly. Rabbits who cannot stop thumping are not rabbits who keep finding new threats. They are rabbits whose threat detection system has become stuck in the on position. This matters for their health in concrete, measurable ways. Chronic cortisol elevation in rabbits suppresses immune function, reduces gut motility, which in an animal as gastrointestinally sensitive as a rabbit can become life-threatening very quickly, and has been linked in multiple studies to the development of GI stasis, the single most common cause of sudden death in domestic rabbits. There is a second warning sign that is almost more important. The sudden stopping of thumping in a rabbit who used to thump regularly. Not a gradual reduction, a sudden cessation, combined with withdrawal, reduced appetite, decreased movement, and a reluctance to engage. This pattern can indicate a rabbit who has moved past active stress response into a state of learned helplessness, a shutdown that animal welfare researchers, including Leidinger and colleagues at the Free University of Berlin, have documented in rabbits, and that requires immediate environmental and sometimes veterinary intervention. The ghost of the thumping rabbit, the rabbit who has gone quiet in all the wrong ways, is the animal I want you to remember, because it is the animal who most needs you to notice. If you see your rabbit thumping constantly and unable to settle, reduce environmental stimuli, examine their space for low-frequency vibration sources, traffic, washing machines, bass frequencies from audio equipment that you cannot hear, but they absolutely can. Consult a rabbit-savvy veterinarian. Do not wait. If you see your rabbit go suddenly and completely still and quiet after a period of normal thumping, treat it as urgently as you would any other sudden behavioural change. A quiet rabbit is not always a calm rabbit. Sometimes a quiet rabbit is a rabbit in distress who has run out of ways to tell you. So go back to that moment. The quiet house. The thump in the other room. You walking over to check and finding your rabbit sitting there, perfectly still, looking at you with those wide dark eyes. You thought you were checking on them, but they were also, in their own way, checking on you, running a 40-million-year-old nervous system through your floorboards, probing the space between you both with ground vibration, filing you, the large, slow, perceptive enough predator who always comes when called, under the category of safe. That thump was not nothing. It was never nothing. It was your rabbit doing the most sophisticated thing a small prey animal can do, trusting that you would come. And you did. If this video changed how you think about your rabbit's thumping, or if you have a story about a thump that you now understand differently, tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you heard and when. And if you want to understand another behaviour you've probably never looked up, the next video is about something your rabbit does with their eyes that most owners completely misread, and the neuroscience behind it will stay with you. Subscribe if you want the real science behind the animals you love. I'll see you there.